but I'm very honored to be here today to present SB 1174. SB 1174 seeks to provide consumers an optional, let me say that again, an optional level of protection in purchasing commercial real estate, which they can be legally compensated for. Under the current regulations, consumers seeking to purchase commercial real estate are void of the protections that are provided for residential real estate purchases. These protections afforded to residential real estate purchases protect the consumer from inaccurate information in the form of disclosures and title insurance. Under current law, if it is found that an agent is involved in the purchasing of commercial real estate did not disclose information provided to them by the seller, then the realtor is at risk of having their license suspended or revoked. Again, that's existing law. The issue lands in the escrow process of buying a piece of commercial property. The consumer is investing money into a commercial property interest. Under current law, there is no protection for a consumer from inaccurate or non-verified disclosures during the sales and escrow process. This bill seeks to provide an opportunity for commercial real estate agents and consumers, and that a realtor who offers a certified disclosure will look more attractive to the consumer than a realtor who does not. SB 1174 provides for an optional certified disclosure that gives the consumer the fullest, most accurate snapshot of the financial factors that contribute to the financial value of the commercial property being sought to purchase. This is important when dealing with, as we do in commercial properties, multi-million-dollar sales, where a broker will communicate to a prospective buyer a cap rate. A cap rate, as an example, is what an investor can expect to get back as a return on investment, less any financing, assuming that there's no financing. While the uncertified disclosure will remain the same, the certified disclosure option gives the consumer the ability to hold the real estate broker financially accountable for a cause of action to recover losses if the broker is liable for those losses due to misleading or giving faulty information, while also providing the same protections to realtors as residential disclosures provide today. SB 1174 is a completely optional product. It's a menu. It's something that brokers can offer or don't have to offer, that some realtors will find useful in attracting consumers to commercial lots while providing extra protection to our consumers. Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition.
Thank you. Sanjay Wagle with the California Association of Realtors. I would like to thank the chair and members for allowing me to speak today. Also, I would like to thank the author for meeting with us to discuss the concerns that gave rise to this bill and also the purposes of this bill. Unfortunately, we must oppose this bill. The bill as drafted, and perhaps unintentionally, would create an unprecedented and unworkable expansion of a real estate licensee's duties. Both to disclose, it would impose greater liability and impose draconian penalties for any failure to disclose. It would impose a strict liability standard for any error. The new obligations would effectively require licensees to retain costly experts, and even if that's not desired by the principals, it would impose significant transactional costs as well as delaying escrows. Furthermore, the increased liability that this bill would entail would make E&O coverage very expensive and perhaps even impossible to obtain. That would again increase transactional costs significantly. As to the second portion of the bill, which deals with the commercial disclosures, I believe the substantive problems with that commercial disclosure are well explored in the analysis. However, I think before even any venturing into discussing whether commercial disclosures of that nature are needed, there would need to be a general discussion about the feasibility and workability and necessity of such commercial disclosures. California common law does protect buyers from misrepresentations. California common law also requires both sellers and brokers to disclose all material facts of which they are aware. The ability for a standard commercial disclosure to work is also, the commercial sphere is much different. A skyscraper in downtown Los Angeles versus a small lot in Folsom are very different beings. Whether a standardized disclosure would even work is a question, but that's a conversation that would need to be had. However, the bill that's in print is, again, something we must oppose, and we ask for your no vote. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any additional witnesses in opposition? Seeing, hearing none, bringing it back to the committee. Any questions by committee? Senator Gaines.
Thank you very much, Chairman Bradford. I just would like some clarification here, because Senator Stone, when he gave his testimony, said that what he's proposing is optional. So wouldn't the liability exposure be limited to a real estate broker that would make that decision to offer that further certification and disclosure of information?
With respect to the first portion of the bill, which redefines substantial misrepresentation, that goes way beyond that. It actually creates an obligation for both commercial and residential agents to licensees to make disclosures regarding a property, period. So the first portion of the bill is not optional. It redefines misrepresentation in the code and says that a misrepresentation includes a failure to report certain items. So how would a licensee even know about the items that are listed? This is a completely different change.
Through the chair, if I could ask a question of Senator Stone, could you respond to that? And
Yes. Well, first of all, you made a very important point. This is optional. And I've been meeting with the realtors who I have a very good relationship with over the years as a real estate investor. And the language that we're talking about is strictly dealing with commercial properties. And there would be no liability unless a broker wanted to offer a higher level of disclosure. We call it underwriting, okay? So we have senior citizens that will take money and they'll invest in a 12-unit apartment building, and they go to a broker. They may not be real estate savvy, and they say to the real estate broker, if I invest my $1.2 million, what am I getting back? And the realtor might say, well, you're going to get a 7% return on investment, a 7 cap, and I'm going to underwrite it for you and show it to you. And so he's going to take the information from the selling broker, and he's going to show that it is a 7% return or 12% return. And there is no obligation that the broker representing the buyer has to verify the information that the selling broker has given them. And people have gotten hurt because of that. So I'm trying to prevent consumers, honest consumers that think they're going to be getting a 7% return on investment, but because something wasn't verified or because something wasn't disclosed, they may lose money on the deal. They may have a negative cash flow. It may go from 7% to a 2% cap. So there are companies out there that do these abbreviated underwritings, and there are some that like to do high levels of one. So the ones that would like to do the high level of one can decide for themselves whether they want to assume that extra liability and go the extra mile to make sure that the information that has been provided by the selling broker can in fact be verified by the buyer's broker, who's getting paid a very healthy commission to verify that information. And by the way, if a brokerage decides they want to go with the higher level of underwriting or disclosures, they can in fact even ask for a higher fee for that by law. So it could be even a revenue generator for the real estate industry to give the comfort level to the buyer that they're getting what they think they're getting.
okay, but is there a higher standard for someone not taking the optional additional disclosure?
No.
That was addressed.
No, and I'd be happy to work with the opposition to clarify that language to make sure that is in fact the
Through the
case.
chair, if I could. So it sounds like the author is willing to work with you. He's saying that he doesn't think there's any additional liability exposure on the standard portion of your bill. Could you please respond to that?
Sure. I mean, as far as the bill in print, and we disagree, because if you take a look at the first portion in 10176, A1, it says a substantial, it redefines, under current law, the Department of Real Estate can suspend somebody's license for making a substantial misrepresentation. Okay, so if a licensee makes a substantial misrepresentation, which seems pretty self-evident, that could result in a license loss. This bill redefines substantial misrepresentation and says a substantial misrepresentation would include the failure to report any of the following. And then it goes through a list of items. So a failure to report, not based on knowledge, simply a failure to report a number of items. One of those items, for example, is the failure to report environmental issues on the property. So let's say I'm a licensee. I have no idea about this property, about environmental issues concerning this property. But now this law redefines substantial misrepresentation, saying if I fail to report environmental issues about a property, I could lose my license. So that means I would have to get, for example, a Phase 1 environmental report, whether or not my clients want it, because I could be in trouble for failing to report, and I could lose my license in addition.
Could you report that you don't have that information?
But
Then would that hold you harmless?
Not as written, because it says failure to report environmental issues on the property.
Through the chair, if I could.
Mr. Senator Gaines, in the second section of the bill, which covers the optional certified disclosure as an option, it says, I should say, we placed protections for the realtor agents to ensure that anything outside their control that may render a disclosure obsolete or inaccurate would not punish the realtor or hold them financially accountable. We believe we put those protections in there. Again, I'd be very happy to work with the opposition to make sure the intent of the bill is exactly that this is optional, and that this higher level of disclosure or underwriting, that the broker understands that there is a higher level of verification, that they can be held accountable if the information they're providing is not accurate. And working with real estate professionals for over 35 years, my dad was a real estate broker, I know they do the best that they can do to provide appropriate information. I'm not by any means trying to create any kind of a legal trap. What I'm trying to do is make sure that when we have innocent people that are making investments in commercial property that don't have the same disclosures as residential properties, that they be given the benefit of the doubt, that they understand that while they may say it's a 7% cap, if it is an uncertified underwriting disclosure, that they have to disclose to the buyer that, listen, we haven't verified with the seller that this is in fact the case, but this is what we believe you're going to get. Or if you would like us, we can do a higher level one, and we will verify every point to make sure to the best of our knowledge that the 7% cap that you're being told you're going to make, you are in fact going to get. It's all just a consumer protection. It's completely optional, provides no additional liability to any brokers that exist out there today, unless they want to assume it.
I would I'll take you at your word that you'll work with the
Yes,
California
absolutely.
Realtors Association and support your bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gaines. Thank you, Senator Stone. I'm going to have to respectfully disagree. I think as long as Section 1 is in the bill, it does not leave it as a optional choice for a broker. I think if you're willing to amend Section 1 out of there, I think you get to where we're all trying to get to, but in its current state, it doesn't.
I would be happy to work with you, Mr. Chairman, and the opposition to tailor the language to fulfill the spirit of what the bill is trying to do, and that's just protect consumers, to make sure that they understand that the information they're getting about a property has either been verified basically or not verified, so they can make an educated choice as to whether or not to invest their life savings in a piece of property and hopefully live on it.
I get your intentions here, and they're laudable. They are well-intended. But again, I think that's where you have the concern from the California Association of Realtors based on what Section 1 as Section 1 reads. It's not a voluntary action. So if you're, again, willing to amend that out of there today, we could probably have some conversation or move it along, but I'm not prepared to support it as it is today. You have a motion, though. You have a motion. So
No, I want to work with the chair. So I'm willing to amend out language in an effort to move the bill forward that I hope, as you know, I'm not an attorney. So I would like to make sure that the scope of what the bill is intended to be still ends up being what it's intended to be. So I would be amenable to amending out a section in order to try to facilitate the movement of the bill to the next level.
And absent that, we're going to retain the right to call the bill back to committee if
Yes.
that in fact isn't done, so.
Absolutely.
Senator Gaines.
Should I amend my motion?
Yes.
That I would make a motion to move the bill based on the amendments that you've proposed as chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the
Should we
consideration.
say it?
Yeah, do pass with amendments to be taken in judiciary.
Okay. So we have a motion do pass as amended to be taken into Judiciary Committee. So, Madam Secretary, please call the bill. Call the roll, I'm sorry.
Motion is due pass to Judiciary Committee. Senator Bradford?
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Vidak? Gaines? Gaines, aye. Galgiani? Wesso? Laura? Portantino?
We have 2 votes there. We have a lot of absent members.